You know what? Third really cool thing, because I wasn't going to do this one, but actually I am going to do it, because I think this is a neat thing as well. Oh, sorry, by the way, if you're not following from the playlist, this is from This Explains Everything. Developmental Timing Explains the Woes of Adolescence by Alison Gopnik, professor of psychology and affiliate professor of philosophy at the University of California, Berkeley, author of The Philosophical Baby. What was he thinking? What was he thinking? What was he... Anyway, this is the familiar, bewildered cry of parents trying to explain why their teenage children act the way they do. Developmental psychologists, neuroscientists, and clinicians have an interesting and elegant explanation for teenage weirdness. It applies to a wide range of adolescent behavior, from the surprisingly admirable to the mildly annoying to the downright pathological. The idea is that there are two different neural and functional systems that interact to turn children into adults. The developmental relationship between these two systems has changed, and that in turn has profoundly changed adolescence. First, there is a motivational and emotional system that's very closely linked to the biological and chemical changes of puberty. This is what turns placid 10-year-olds, safe in the protected immaturity of childhood, into restless, exuberant, emotionally intense teenagers, desperate to attain every goal, fulfill every desire, and experience every sensation. And for adolescents, the most important goal of all is to get the respect of your peers. Recent studies show that adolescents aren't reckless because they underestimate risks, but because they overestimate rewards, especially social rewards. Or rather, that they find rewards more rewarding than adults do. Think about the incomparable intensity of first love, the never-to-be-recaptured glory of the high school basketball championship. In youth, you want things, and then in middle age, you want to want them. The second system is a control system that can channel and harness all that seething energy. The prefrontal cortex reaches out to guide and control other parts of the brain. This is the system that inhibits impulses and guides decision-making. This control system depends much more on learning than does the motivational system. You get to make better decisions by making not-so-good decisions and then correcting them. You get to be a good planner by making plans, implementing them, and seeing the results again and again. Expertise comes with experience. In the distant evolutionary past, in fact, even in the most recent historical past, these two systems were in sync. Most childhood education involved formal and informal apprenticeships. Children had lots of chances to practice exactly the skills they would need to accomplish their goals as adults, and so to become expert planners and actors. To become a good gatherer or hunter, cook or caregiver, you would actually practice gathering, hunting, cooking, and taking care of children all through middle childhood and early adolescence, tuning up just the prefrontal wiring you need as an adult. But you do all that under expert adult supervision and in the protected world of childhood where the impact of your inevitable failures would be blunted. When the motivational juice of puberty kicked in, you'd be ready to go after the real rewards with new intensity and exuberance, but you'd also have the skill and control to do it effectively and reasonably safely. In contemporary life, though, the relationship between these two systems has changed. For reasons that are somewhat mysterious, but most likely biological, puberty is kicking in at an earlier and earlier age. The leading theory points to changes in energy balance as children eat more and move less. The motivational system kicks in with it. At the same time, contemporary children have very little experience with the kinds of tasks they'll have to perform as grown-ups. Children have less and less chance even to practice such basic skills as cooking and caregiving. In fact, contemporary adolescents and pre-adolescents don't do much of anything except go to school. The experience of trying to achieve a real goal in real time in the real world is increasingly delayed, and the development of the control system depends on just those experiences. The developmental psychologist Ron Dahl has a nice metaphor for the result. Adolescents develop a gas pedal and accelerator a long time before they get steering and brakes. This doesn't mean that adolescents are stupider than they used to be. In many ways, they're much smarter. In fact, there's some evidence that delayed frontal development is correlated with higher IQ. The increasing emphasis on schooling means that children know more about more subjects than they ever did in the days of apprenticeships. Becoming a really expert cook doesn't tell you about the evolution of tool use or the composition of sodium chloride, the sorts of things you learn in school. But there are different ways of being smart. Knowing history and chemistry is no help with a souffle. Wide-ranging, flexible, and broad-based learning may hinder the development of finely honed, controlled, focused expertise in a particular skill. Of course, the old have always complained about the young. But this explanation does elegantly account for the paradoxes and problems of our particular crop of adolescents. There do seem to be many young adults who are enormously smart and knowledgeable but directionless, who are enthusiastic and exuberant but unable to commit to a particular work or a particular love until well into their 20s or 30s. And there is the graver case of children faced with the uncompromising reality of the drive for sex, power, and respect without the expertise and impulse control it takes to ward off pregnancy or violence. I like this explanation because it accounts for so many puzzling everyday phenomena, but I also like it because it emphasizes two important facts about minds and brains that are often overlooked. First, there's the fact that experience shapes the brain. It's truer to say that our experience of controlling our impulses makes the prefrontal cortex develop than it is to say that prefrontal development makes us better at controlling our impulses. Second, it's increasingly apparent that development plays a crucial role in explaining human nature. The old evolutionary psychology picture was that a small set of genes, a module, was directly responsible for some particular pattern of adult behavior. But there's more and more evidence that genes are just the first step in complex developmental sequences, cascades of interactions between organism and environment, and that those developmental processes shape the adult brain. Even small changes in developmental timing can lead to big changes in who we become. I don't have anything to say about that. It's just a cool thing. I just want to make sure that it was clear. I don't know whether it was either unclear because my reading was off, whatever. But here's what I think I understood, or maybe I didn't even fully understand. But here's what I think is they are saying. So in the past, the sequence of brain development is the way that it is based on the environment we've spent most of our time in as a species. And that environment was nothing like today's environment, okay? So in the past, it would be a community, right? We didn't have this nuclear family bullshit. We would all be living together, working together, and so on, right? And so, the parents aren't going off to the office to work. The work that needs to be done, the farming, the caregiving, the gathering of the fruits and seeds or whatever, or the hunting, well, kids would be a part of that. They would be there. And so they'd be learning these different things, being good, placid 10-year-olds who are listening and happy to stay at home and have a good relationship with their family, who aren't needing to separate from their parents, who can teach them things, who aren't more concerned about their peers and so on. So it's great. You're 10 years old. You're like, okay, teach me. So then you learn a little bit about, what your parents do. You learn how to tend the field or whatever. And then also, I think, they were in sync. Right. So now you're hitting, 13, 14, and two things happen at the same time. One, you've got the prefrontal cortex developing, and you're practicing planning, making decisions, analyzing whatever needs to be analyzed for your field of expertise, or the literal field. And you're learning, and then at the same time, you've got a burst of energy, of rebellion, of new ideas. And because these develop, in the lifetime in sync, this energy gets channeled into what your job is, what you are doing, what you are learning, whatever. And so you have lots of new ideas, and that's great because it's not too crazy. The prefrontal cortex can say, okay, great, so that's a good idea. Let's articulate it the right way, or whatever. I don't know. And, oh, great. The brain now has lots of energy to really dive into this subject matter, this thing, and you've also got the prefrontal cortex to do it sort of properly. Okay. So I hope that's clear. I don't know whether I made it clear, but anyway. And then but then what's happening now is that they are no longer in sync. So we're getting hit with all this motivation, this energy, these rebellious instincts before we have the structure, the internal guide that's meant to channel and harness that rebellious energy, that whatever. Which is why, inner city violence, between gang members, it's mostly between 15 and 25-year-olds, right? Oh, that doesn't super line up with. No, I think it's 15 and 19, right? Can you say that instead? But when was it in sync? Because for me, prefrontal cortex is 18 to 26. And puberty was never that late, was it? No way. I don't know. But there you go. So that's pretty cool. Because you're supposed to be, yeah, yes, father, okay. And then you're supposed to be, yes, father, okay. And I'm also going to work on this. And I'm able to boop, boop, boop. But now it's, yes, father, okay. Until this finally kicks in. That's pretty cool.